Hey, all you ghost ghouls and otherwise grotesque creatures of the night. Welcome to the Halloween special. The first annual Halloween special,
Number one.
Totally didn't shoot an entire bit and then reshoot it right now. This is the first time we are talking about Halloween specials of TV shows. I got Zane here. He streams and slaps his microphone. And we got producer Lacey behind the camera. What's up, producer Lacey?
Hi, guys.
Today, we're going to talk about essentially a long-forgotten tradition of Halloween specials in your favorite TV shows. What are you doing?
I'm trying to save my boy.
Oh, poor guy. So the idea is, back when TV was actually on TV and not just streaming, some of you kiddies may not know, there was a long tradition of people around the time of a holiday putting out a Halloween, Christmas, or Thanksgiving special, right? So we decided to take some of our favorite shows or not so favorite shows and dive into their Halloween special episodes in this review. There will be timestamps below in case you guys want to skip to the show you want to actually watch, like Freddy's Nightmares. I imagine there's at least a handful of you out there because nobody makes content about it. Also listed below will be the places where you can watch them. Tubi, Hulu will have all that information. So you guys can watch them, come back and just listen to us talk shit about it.
I didn't know that holiday specials are kind of going away. Like, I guess it makes sense, but like
sign of the times,
It's such a thing that's integrated into my head.
One that was really great that happened, and it had no reason to happen, but it did, was the WandaVision Halloween special. You guys should check that out. No, seriously, they kept that tradition alive, and a part of it was actually playing into the fact that it was mimicking older TV to just show you how much this is a forgotten trend. They literally did it for that reason. So
Bob's Burgers has probably one of my favorite
Bob's Burgers, man.
Freaking love
the
Bob's
Thanksgiving
Burgers.
special.
Well, yeah, we definitely got to approach that at some point. So let's jump into our first one. Every one of us actually picked one, and this is Zane's pick. So let's jump in to Psych. In this Halloween-themed season finale, Sean, a false psychic who works with the Santa Barbara Police Department, along with his childhood best friend Gus, are called in by Officer O'Hara, who is undercover as a college sorority girl. They are brought in to investigate a girl's untimely demise at a mental institution after her, air quote, suicide was similar to that of a local urban legend. An urban legend that Gus and Sean were apparently present for 20 years earlier. So, go ahead and break out your Halloween candy and kick off your witch's shoes or claws or heels or whatever the fuck you need to wear to make your costume work, and let's have ourselves a Psych Halloween.
I love Psych.
Yeah, he does. He's a fucking Psych nerd.
It's like one of those, like, it's that little, like, golden era in USA, like, TV shows. You got, like, Psych, Suits,
You know what's funny?
Notice.
You say golden era, and I really feel like people hear those names of those shows and are like,
no, it's not. They're not great shows, but that's
you're like,
why I
fucking
love them.
Burn Notice, man. Ugh.
Bruh, it's Sam Raimi's boy is in Burn Notice.
Yeah, I know, but like nobody shits their pants over Burn Notice.
No,
nobody would call it a golden era.
But it was just,
or Suits for that matter. Like, no hate on Suits, but like nobody refers to that as the golden era.
But it's just like I remember coming home from school or whatever, and I didn't have anything else to do, and just like kicking one of those shows on because it was just like one after another on USA, and just watching all those. And there's a special place in my heart for all of the Psych holiday episodes. They're so much fun and so goofy. But getting into kind of like where it all started, finishing out, it's the first season that they finish out with a Halloween episode, and it's so true to what the show kind of becomes, where it's like a little bit of serious, like it knows that it's a procedural, but it's just like having a good time with it.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is I kind of discovered Psych in a larger way in recent years. I wasn't that into it when it was on TV. I thought it was kind of formulaic and trying too hard to be funny. And at times I feel like that's still true about the show. Yeah. No offense. The movie is so uninspired that I fucking hated it. But when it comes to early episodes of Psych and you go back and you revisit it, there is tons of smart humor throughout. And this episode, there there's just something so funny about how unimportant Lassiter is in this episode.
Yeah.
But yet I don't. I usually when there's a B plot that nobody gives a fuck
I
about.
live for this B plot.
This B plot's amazing. It's so stupid. I love it.
It's so goofy, and it's like most Psych episodes you can watch entirely removed from the majority of the show, and that's any procedural. You can kind of treat it like that, but there is something so fun about just like getting this character. Even if this is the first time you've watched it, you know who Lassiter is just by like slight interactions, and then where they finish it off with the police chief, like, oh, we really thought it was going to work out.
We thought it was going to work out. You know, like this episode for me is, I'm not saying Psych is a great show, although I won't give my review of it now because eventually we're going to talk about Psych. We have to. We have fucking this Psych nerd over here. But to talk specifically about this episode, it ranks pretty high amongst Halloween specials for me. I really think that it's in like the Boy Meets World area of a Halloween special. It's really funny. It's entirely relevant to the holiday, even with, you know, the atmosphere of the episode being there's the big twist is that a disgruntled friend is going to murder O'Hara with a fucking axe inside of a mental institution. Like they're summing up Halloween so perfectly, especially with the integration of the backstory, right? Because there's this whole backstory. It's like, we saw Sherry kill herself. We saw her jump off.
And it's like, no.
And that's exactly how you are when you're a kid. You just fully have the assumptions and the full writing in your head. You fill out the space in between with facts that you think you saw, but you didn't.
And it's one of those things that like, if you've got a story ingrained in yourself that you came up with when you were a kid, even though it would be so simple to find like, oh, nobody actually jumped out of a window out of that hospital when we were growing up. Like there's no records of it anywhere. Like it'd be so easy to verify that or to check it. And they just don't. And it's something that it's like, it's so true to just like how solid childhood memories just lock into place for you.
Mm-hmm. I do think that Sean's dad's an asshole though, and let me explain why.
Yeah.
So like and I'm not even talking about the rest of the show. We'll just go with this one instance, and this is my example. So the idea is they are sitting around the table, and Gus and Sean are talking about like, we saw that shit when we were kids, and Sean keeps reiterating, I'm pleading that I was 9 years old, which is really funny and true, because you know, the dad was so dismissive of the trauma, but it's like, dude, even if the girl didn't kill herself, your son saw a woman try to commit suicide when he was 9.
Yeah.
Like, that's not anything to brush over. Like, it's your fault for looking. He was 9.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so funny. Like, and it's honestly kind of true. You'll find people like that in your real life.
There's always times like that where it's like you'll talk to a parent or something and you're like, here's this really traumatic shit from my childhood. And they're like, no,
what are you talking about?
Fuck are you talking about? Like, and it's like, looking back, like at the time I was like, oh yeah, no, that's just kind of whatever. But looking back, you could be like, oh right, that was
fucked
really
up.
Fucked up.
It's fucked up. Lacey, what did you have to say about the episode?
I think this is one of my favorite episodes of Psych. Like the whole entire show that I've seen.
Very strong
I haven't
episode.
seen all of it,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I love it so much.
You don't have to see all of it.
I love,
which is high praise from her because she's I'm always like, we could watch Psych, and she's like, no.
Well, I don't blame her. I have to be honest.
It's
your
my
love
comfort
of Psych
show.
Is it's exactly
the same
that.
way people treat that 70s show
or
The
Friends
Office or Friends. Yeah,
but I like O'Hara's part when she joins the sorority and she starts like feeding into like their cult mentality and totally losing herself in it. Great. Love the ghost story aspect to it. Great. Loved Gus when he was talking to that one lady to get into her house.
Oh my God, that scene. Yeah, I was gonna get into that. Yeah.
What was her? What did he say? Her name
God,
this make believe cat,
Mrs. Mittens.
Something like
it was
that.
something like that.
That was.
It's like they found her.
Joel Hill is just
such
a great part of this show.
That was so funny. Oh my
That
gosh.
whole bit was wild. Yeah.
And then all of Lassie's bit, like everything was firing on all cylinders in this episode.
And usually I hate a B plot. You know what I mean? Like sometimes.
But it was just so wild.
It was so funny.
It worked
just
so
enough
well.
to give you kind of like a breath from the wildness that was happening in the main plot.
It was kind of a breathing break.
I think that this episode in particular is just a great little like shot of like, hey, here's how you should do a B plot. Like it's almost textbook.
Well, I don't know
style,
about that.
Like,
to be honest with you, I really don't think this B plot would work in another show.
No.
But this entire cast, the entire leading cast, are all really charismatic and on their own could probably run a show, like be on a show and be the main character. But it's the fact that they all come together and then they're able to play into their, like a lot of shows will always play to the character's strengths. And what I like about Psych is that their characters are fleshed out enough and are charismatic enough to where they can even play to their weaknesses in an interesting way. And I think, you know, Lassiter is not a character that you would be excited to watch in the Halloween special because he's such a no-nonsense, not going to do it, not having it bullshit, that to give him a B plot that plays into his other weaknesses and to just heighten it and be more ridiculous about it was a strength in the episode. But if you try to do that in like Friends or something, you're like, can we fucking move on? I don't care about Joey Bag of Donuts or whatever the fuck his name is. I want to watch Ross and Rachel fuck or whoever.
Yeah. And then Sean and Gus were the ones who started the urban legend to begin with, like 10 out of 10.
Yes.
It just makes it so much fun.
That would be your and my reaction if you found that out.
That's like one of the things, like I feel like there's so many instances where like a Sean and Gus would be like some wild, like every time they're off on some crazy adventure.
Very relatable duo.
Yeah.
You always have that friend in your friend group who's a bit more wild, gets you into insane antics. And, you know, Gus is such a great straight man while also being funny in his own way in this episode. So yeah, like that stuff's really great. I loved the girl who played the killer. I've seen her in other stuff, or the one who was attempting to kill O'Hara, I mean. You know, it was funny. It's always a good bit when he does his mentalist thing, you know, where he's just looking around and picking up on certain things and copying them.
Just so goofy.
I always wanted to do a paired review of The Mentalist and Psych because it's essentially the exact same concept, just tackled in two different ways. And I actually think that Psych might be a little better, which would make a lot of people upset, but whatever.
Well, it's Psych, The Mentalist, and Monk were all kind of floating around.
Yeah, no,
at the
Monk
same
is
time.
its own thing.
Yeah.
And same thing goes with there was another one called Lie to Me that people really loved. That's another thing that's kind of separate and deals with some of the same stuff. But like Psych and The Mentalist are the same in the sense that they're very procedural and they do this idea of mentalism and it's kind of an open secret, you know, that they're not really psychic. Except Sean's idea is to hide it from everybody. And the other guy's idea is essentially to be like, no, I was a fake psychic and now I'm just helping the police department. Yeah. It's cool. I like Psych. I think that this episode was really good. For me, it's going to be like a 7 out of 10.
I love this show. I got to give it a 10 out of 10. I can't. Anything less and it wouldn't be what it is, which is my favorite show.
I think, oh man, how do you even rate Psych? Like compared to like the other stuff
it's not like
we're
rating the show,
I know,
right? This is specifically
this episode.
Think about it with this criteria. Did it get you in the Halloween mood? Did it bring you back to that point in your life when you were a kid and maybe you weren't allowed to watch spooky, scary movies, but you would still get into the spirit by diving into it with some of your favorite characters? Does it accomplish that for you? And was it a good time to watch?
It was a good time. I think I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Yes. I'm cheering that as well.
Yeah, getting an 8 out of 10 from Lacey's like getting a 30 out of 10 from me.
Exactly. I'm like, yes.
Kidding. All right, guys. On the screen, I'm sure, or even in the description, we'll talk about the places you can find this show. You can obviously buy individual episodes on Amazon. I believe it's on Prime, but who knows by the time this is put out. But check out the Psych special and let us know what you think of it in the comments and what you think of Psych in general or these other Halloween specials that we're talking about.
What is your favorite holiday special from Psych? Because they've got a lot of good ones.
All right, bada bing. Okay, kids, let's dig into the next one. Let's dig into the Halloween spectacular of Spooky Doom, shall we? In this Halloween special of the massive cult hit Invader Zim, Dib, Zim's earthling rival, decides to tamper with his father's work and ends up in an alternate dimension, a world created out of his own mind. Once this threat not only exceeds what Dib can handle, but quite possibly is a dire threat to the entire dimension, he is forced to join forces with the only person who can help. That's right, Zim motherfucking himself, bitch. Can these two foes come together for the greater good? All set to a B-plot where Gur likes candy and Zim hates kids. So how did this make our Halloween? Let's find out.
I feel like the name of it being the Halloween Spectacular of Spooky Doom or whatever the fuck it is so perfectly Invader Zim. Like, it's just, the show was always so over the top and grotesque and ridiculous. And I just, like, coming back to this to watch this Halloween plot was just such a trip.
I have a confession to make. Okay, so I used to watch this show when I was younger, and obviously Invader Zim is a huge franchise and entirely marketable. It's honestly more of like a product than it is a show at this point. Yeah. Like the actual merch is probably outselling any sort of Invader Zim media or content. And I'm somebody who should love this because I was an emo kid and I loved this shit. But I have to tell you, this was one of the most tedious fucking sits I've ever had in my entire life. Holy shit. Now, to be fair to Invader Zim, this is technically a two-parter combined into one episode because they're usually 15-minute segments in one episode. But this was terrible. And here's the thing. I actually think that Invader Zim is a lot worse than people remember. It's essentially like style over substance for me as far as this episode goes. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's because the other episodes, they flow better based on timing and the bits and the jokes from within. And maybe I need to watch more Invader Zim to say this, but I really had an unpleasant time watching this. I thought it was quite bad.
So. It definitely was not an easy watch. And this was my pick because I remember growing up that I liked Invader Zim and I'm like, oh, surely they have a Halloween special.
I mean, they're so Halloween-y on their own.
Yeah, exactly. And returning to this episode in particular, I was like, whoa, like I watched this, like I enjoyed this. I don't know. I think it might just be that episode because I do remember good parts and like Gur being cute kind of balance all the crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, like Gur's a delight. And even this episode,
even, like hardly in this episode though.
So
like,
I think the thing that just does really drag this episode down is the fact that it's a two-parter.
Which, by the way, I have to point out that that's still only 22 minutes. Yeah. Like, we're not talking about a fucking hour-long Invader Zim special, which is on Netflix if you want to go kill yourself with that. Yeah. I'm sure that's going to be boring as hell.
The thing that makes Invader Zim so much fun, though, is because of how like quick it is. They've got 11 minutes to do a bunch of shit, so it's just bit running into bit running into bit, so it's very rapid fire. When they extend it out, it loses a lot of its charm.
I just don't know if I believe that, and maybe I'm wrong, but it's weird how until Paramount there wasn't an easy access to streaming of Invader Zim. It's not like it was something that was readily available to the internet, and it still had such a hold on merchandising. I mean, you can still go get an Invader Zim shirt.
I remember growing up, and every emo girl had the Gur backpack.
The Gur picture on MySpace was their profile. Like
what is it? The like I love tacos.
Yeah.
Shit waffles. Like that. Just
I know.
I
think that Paramount would be smart to take the Gur character and a lot like how Disney Plus has shorts with Forky, make some shorts with Gur because Gur is honestly the show's heart and soul, and people enjoy that character for his irreverence and cuteness.
Was this episode not as successful because it focused so much on Dib?
You know, it doesn't. I don't think it should matter.
Really?
I think that
I don't know.
I think that if the writing is there and if the show is good, then it wouldn't have mattered who they focused on. The fact is, I just think this is a poorly written episode. Like,
could be. Maybe they were forced into writing a Halloween episode and they're like, what are we going to do with this? I don't know. I need to go back and rewatch the
I
show.
feel like I could take an Invader Zim concept and make it better than this Halloween special was.
So definitely.
And that says a lot because I never have faith over professional writers. but this was so bad. First of all, I know that a lot of its depiction of mental health will upset people, but like that stuff's about a passage of time and an understanding. So I won't hold it to the cancelable concept. But even if you took that out, it's quite boring and stupid and doesn't really try to explain itself in an irreverent or otherwise way at all. It just is bad. I don't know. I honestly feel bad for saying that because I love the style of the character, and I know there's a lot of fans out there that love Invader Zim and will like protect it at all costs, and I respect every fandom in that way. But like, dude, you cannot deny that this episode's poop.
I definitely think that this is a weaker episode of Invader Zim. It is. I don't know if it's just pure nostalgia looking back on
That's
it.
one I think it might be.
I think there was good episodes though.
I
don't know. I used to think
know for a fact.
I used to think that about Mucha
episodes.
Lucha. It's not true. It's really not. The show's bad.
I haven't gone back to look at Mucha Lucha in a hot minute, but I remember that being like one of my favorite shows, and I'm sure that it does not hold up.
No.
But yeah.
Just a little racist.
A little racist? A little racist.
Well, I don't count the Spanish and Latin influences in the show because they were created by people of that.
Yeah.
But there were other depictions of other characters in that show that were not great. And that happened in this one too with mental health and all that. I mean, the only bit I liked was you only have 3 Crazy Boy cards a month. I kind of liked that bit.
Use that one?
I hated the little girl. I didn't think she was funny. I didn't think that like her slang was funny. And I get like, you know, like that shit's whack or whatever. Like when
the little girl,
you know, the little girl who was there was a little girl or boy, I can't remember. There was a kid who was like, we want to send Dib to the fucking institution. We want to have them institutionalized.
Oh yeah.
Oh, in the class.
In the classroom.
You know, they spend like 6 minutes on that bit. You know what I mean? It's super fucking long for this episode,
and that's
it's not funny at any point. It's crazy.
So one of the things that I do know about like the creator of this show, the reason that Invader Zim got like canceled so early, right in the middle of its hype, was because the creator was so hard to work with. He was like, this is exactly how I want to make things. And he was just doing like things that were just weird. And I feel like especially this episode, a lot of the monsters and everything that they're showing are so much of his like, oh, I want to be creepy and Tim Burton-y and I want like to show off that side of it.
That didn't bother me. I mean, I don't care about
it felt like it
artistic
dragged
style
because he was trying to stuff too much of that shit in and didn't actually like have anything to do with it. He was just like, I just want to show these things and I don't actually want to have to like make a plot line that really makes sense.
I think the artistic style is one of the better
points
of the
say, that's what I was going to
show.
say. I actually think that's
I like the cool creepiness.
The only strong part of the whole
different.
episode.
Yeah.
You know, like the character depictions are so strange and otherworldly and, you know, asymmetrical and fucking odd, and that's cool.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like, that was it. I didn't care about anything else. I had to watch it twice. And the reason for that is I watched it once and I literally absorbed none of it.
Yeah.
Because it was nothing. Like, do you understand? Like, the whole episode finished and I was like, what the fuck did I just watch? I feel like I didn't even see anything. Watched it again. I was like, oh, because there was nothing to see.
Yeah. And that's just, it felt very style without substance.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a bummer to say it, but like for me, this is a 1 out of 10. Like, I can't even. I want to give it a 2.
I'm gonna give it a 2 because
like,
Gurr was really fun.
The thing is anything that's so bad that I have to rewatch it to fully accept how terrible it is, I then have a grudge against.
Yeah,
because I'm like, now I wasted 40 minutes on this. So for me, it's a 1 out of 10. Like, fuck this shit, bro. It's bad.
I'm giving it a 2 out of 10 because it circled back around to like multiverse. That's like a huge thing that's been running around recently, and just to see it again, like.
But this one happened before that.
Yeah, I know, but like
like
the fact that just like seeing it in like an older show, like old ideas of multiverse stuff, something about that was kind of like, oh, cool, like interesting in my brain that kept me entertained for a little bit longer. But yeah, it's definitely watch another episode. Watch the episode where he gets like lost in the city or something.
Watch the very first episode. The pilot for the show is, I think, good from what I remember.
You know, I gotta.
But my memory could be wrong.
Maybe people will disagree with us and they'll want us to review the whole show, and then I'll be forced to watch the pilot, and maybe I'll enjoy it. I'm not like I love the design of the characters. I like the music. I think it's cool that there was like a kind of gothic cartoon, very dark in its nature. And I love aliens. So like I don't know why the fuck this didn't hit for me. Oh wait, because the script was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping it was just this episode because I remember liking it.
I feel like the two big things that really save Invader Zim are Dib's little sister. She's constantly just roasting him.
She wasn't in this episode at all.
Well, actually, she was in it for like a split second.
Yeah,
but yeah.
And Gurr. Like those are the two big side characters that just save.
She's the one with the red hair, right?
Yeah, she's got the little like spiky hair and everything, and she's just always ripping into Dib. It's hilarious, makes Dib the butt of every joke, and it's so good. But she was entirely sidelined. Gurr gets almost entirely sidelined, and then
he does have a big moment at the end where he's this giant, disgusting, fat robot.
Yeah, and like that was kind of funny. But yeah, there's a lot of other...
I put it in the intro because I thought it was actually like one of the few funny parts. Not that it was him that did it, but just the fact that like, oh, okay, there is a B plot here. Yeah, that's cool.
I feel like you kind of need Gurr to be like that relief to all the dark craziness that happens in the show.
It's like the Grinch's dog. Also missing, you know,
exactly. Yeah,
you need that irreverent, like lighthearted humor. And it wasn't here. It was just a lot of dark, upsetting themes, and wasn't funny, interesting. It didn't age well.
Bad takes,
it just wasn't good. It was a big pat. What did you rate it?
I'll probably give this one a 3.
That's the most favorable too. Yeah.
I really like the show, but this episode did not. It was
sorry,
not
Zane almost had me singing Britney Spears. Don't be like 1, 2, 3 out of nowhere. You and me and the 3 green and nobody loves counting. Bruh. Sorry, I just love that. I love that song more than I love this episode. What were you saying, Lacey? I'm sorry.
It's a 3. I really liked the show back in the day, so I might have to revisit the rest of the episodes. This one was not it. I don't know. I'll probably do that on my own time.
Sorry, kids. RAR XD. I guess we're moving on, huh? Let's get on with our lives and out of this hot topic into the next episode. Hey, kids, what's a better way to spend Halloween than with one of the kings of horror, Mr. Freddy Krueger? In the 80s, they gave him his own show, Freddy's Nightmares, plural, because it's an anthology, as we talked about right before this. Okay, so in episode 4 of Freddy's Nightmares, Tricks and Treats, which was released in 1988, it starred a young Mariuszka Hargitay long before she would don the iconic feminist role of Olivia Benson. She starred as Marcia, a college bookworm. One Halloween, Marcia ignores the standard foolery that goes along with the 31st and spends the day studying by practicing on cadavers. Fucking Christ. On Halloween. I mean, you're just begging for spooky shit. Anyway, midway through her studies, she starts having horrific nightmares about her friend's family and traumatic past. But the phantoms are more than just regretful memories and painful past lives. There is something supernatural going on. As she begins to think, after a lot of denial, that it could be related to the local folklore dream killer, Freddy Krueger.
I spent the entirety of this episode trying to figure out why the fuck I knew her.
Man, it's almost like there's like the internet and you could have figured it out in like a second.
No. I say that would have been made too much sense for my brain. For my brain stuff happening. I was just like, I'm going to figure this out. There's no reason that I shouldn't just look it up. But yeah, no, the whole time it was going on, which also the whole time that it was happening, I was waiting for it to end.
Of course. So the thing about Freddy's Nightmares, it's sort of a fever dream. It's just one of those things where it was really popping at the time and they thought, well, let's make a show. It can syndicate on multiple networks. People can edit in and out scenes they don't want for television. We'll make a lot of the gratuitous stuff not be super plot specific. So as a result, there's also multiple cuts of this show out there because they were playing and syndicated on different networks all over. Like if you watch this on Sci-Fi, that's a completely different reality than what it was like when you watched it on standard television. More than likely. So, with that being said, it's kind of awful. I mean, the show is so bad, and I kind of love it because of how bad it is. Because it's like a time capsule. It's like this is like every bad Freddy movie that happened post 3.
I wanted to enjoy it though.
No, I've really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because of how bad it was and how terrible the plot was, and like you got Mariska Hargitay doing a strip tease, and it's like, whoa, Olivia Benson's doing a strip tease right now. That seems retroactively kind of fucked up in its own way.
Yeah,
but
which also one of the plot points.
The plot point isn't the plot for this is fucking wild and super weird.
The plot point that they set on, like, had they cut right after she, like, we realized, like, oh, the dude that we've been hanging out with the whole time is
then it would have been so much. Then it would have been such like a Goosebumps moment, and
it was mature Goosebumps. That's what this show.
No. I know. But if you would have taken out the second half, you would have lost on the mature part and just had the Goosebumps part. That's not me saying that this episode should have ever happened. This is truly one of the worst things I've seen related to Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying, I think for what they were trying to go for, it being kind of almost a procedural, less of a Goosebumps, more of a Law and Order with Freddy. It literally is like it's a different person being fucked with by Freddy every week, and this week just happens to be Halloween. Yeah. And what's crazy about it, barely has anything to do with fucking Halloween. Yeah. I mean, after like the first opening scene, like we talked about, the Goosebumps moment, nothing at all.
Because the rest of it takes place 2 months later. They even say that she dropped out.
No, I know it. Yeah, exactly. You're correct.
So it's like, at that point, it's no longer even a Halloween episode. So it's like, what the fuck is even happening? But also, the love interest, the first love interest is a figment of her imagination. And then the second one started with saying, like, I love it when women are naked because they can't lie.
Super pervy.
Like, super creepy.
Now, with the other show, what I did with the other shows, I just collected the information, wrote down a couple of notes. With this, I wrote a note about every few seconds because it was so insane.
Yeah.
So if you guys want, I can go through some of these notes and you can get an idea of what my experience was while I was watching this.
Please
go ahead.
All right, let's start from the top. The intro was kind of dope and fun, a little scary even. Fucking Olivia motherfucking Benson is the guest star in this episode. I am soaked wet with anticipation. I can't even with this shit. What the fuck? Dun dun. I said, this is terribly written and acted. It's exhilaratingly honest, though. And then I said, why does no one want... Never moving past that one. That one will get me canceled. Then I wrote, this shit is fucking boring.
Yeah.
And then I said, she's going to go hang out with corpses on Halloween. Fucking weirdo, dude. She doesn't want to know who Freddy is. Like, what? If you move somewhere, like, you'll definitely hear about it sooner or later. Like, she moved there.
Yeah.
It's like this talk of the town, an old serial killer that everybody envisions is in their dreams all the time, and people joke about that being a thing.
Why didn't she bring it up? Like, after she saw him in her dreams, she just doesn't say anything to anybody.
Because she thought that it wasn't real. She thought it was a figment of her dreaming. Like, of her being overstressed and worked.
This episode confused me so much.
The guy talked to her about Freddy right before she had those nightmares. So she's like, oh, I must have just been tired. And then, as a result...
Dude,
it's
which
wild.
Also
had the dream about Freddy.
She's a pre-med. She's going in to like become a med major, but it's still just like she's just allowed to just cut up corpses in the middle of the night. Like, that's not, to my knowledge,
what kind
that's
of anatomy class is that?
Yeah, that's not something that, like, even if you're studying for anatomy, you don't just get to be like, I want to study anatomy. I'm just going to carve up this old man on a table for no fucking reason. Like, you probably have to pass your anatomy class before you can just do that.
Yeah, I don't feel like they just let any student, like,
Like, no, I'm pre-med. Fucking neat, dude. Yeah.
So one of the things that I also, like, during the dream part, where, like, you're starting to see, guys, spoilers for the episode, obviously. Holy shit. But the idea is that she's been horribly traumatized by her grandmother, right?
Yeah.
And one of the scenes is like, you don't know that yet. So I wrote a note, and like my note is bad in retrospect, but I didn't know it was going to be bad later. So I wrote this. There's a point where she's having a nightmare and her grandmother's forcing her to wash her hands. So I wrote, show me how you wash your hands. Cha-cha, real smooth with it. Dun, 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 Charlie Brown. And then in quotes right after I wrote, this girl was abused by her grandmother. I feel so terrible. Yeah, so there's tons of stuff in this. The later part of the plot almost feels like another episode in a way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it harpens back to the beginning of the episode so much that it's like, yes, these things are connected. It's almost like they're trying to convince us this is a whole episode.
It feels like they wrote the first part and then they're like, oh wait, it's supposed to be an hour long? Shit, we gotta make an entire second half.
We have to review this whole show.
Also,
we have to watch the show.
Who was the girl in the cage in the second part of her dream? Just some random, what was that?
Was that supposed to be a callback to...
I think that's her, right? Or an embodiment of her?
She was blonde?
No, I think I could be wrong, but
she
there
didn't
was
look like any.
There's like a creepy little girl, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well this is actually let's break down.
Is that like from another episode?
No, it's actually a Freddy bit. Freddy has this embodiment of child innocence in all of his nightmares. You know, 1, 2, Freddy's coming.
Yeah.
It's always a blonde little girl.
Okay, so it's just from that. Okay.
And it's always used to depict things from your own traumatic past because, Freddy, well, it's going to be dark. He assaulted children. And so when he goes into their dreams, he tends to dig at memories that involve their past, involve their childhood.
Well, it's also because
it's actually a double. That's like one of the only smart things in the episode. It's a double layered reference.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it is so deep in nightmare lore / just comes off like complete bullshit in the moment that I could see why you or any normal viewer would be like, who the fuck is this?
I was like, what is happening?
Well,
Because so much had been about her and stuff, and I was like, is this another like part of her figment of her imagination?
One of the
is
big things with
another
Freddy
character?
is because he was a child predator, one of the things that child predators do to kind of like control their victims, they use their trauma against them. So every time they go after somebody.
I was just confused about who is this additional character in this episode.
Now, my fucking big question, they talk about like at the end of the episode, they're like, oh, we need to get her to have a more powerful dream so that we can get a clearer image, when literally like when they do the little time skip, that 2 months later, there's like a 5-minute scene where she's doing that striptease thing and it's like crystal clear picture. And it's like, okay, so that wasn't enough to...
Well, okay. Hold up. Now that scene, oddly enough, is meant to be the envisioned idea of like what you'd see if you were there in the dream, right? I still think that that's a terrible scene, but it does contextually make sense.
And they show that the thing is coming through
but what you're viewing is not that. You know what I mean? Like, wait, what are you trying to say? Let's clarify.
When they back out of it to show you that it's happening on the little monitor, they back it up and there's like 30 seconds of clear visual where you're watching the two dudes and they're watching the screen and it's still crystal clear.
Yeah.
But they show later on where it's like half a second of a little girl and they're like, look, we were able to look at the dream. And it's like, you did like 30 seconds.
I get what you're saying.
Even if you didn't get the full 5-minute striptease, you still got 30 seconds of very clear visual where it's like, yeah, it's creepy that you guys were watching that dream, but it's still like weird sexual things happen in dreams sometimes. So that's not something that they can be held responsible for, that the patient was having a weird sex dream.
Although it was weird that they were gathered around it like they were watching the Super Bowl. That was a little weird.
Like, so at the start of that whole process, it's like, oh, are they just trying to get a video of her undressing in her dream? Because then it's easier to just make porn.
What's nuts about the episode is it doesn't explain what's going on very well at the top, and then like
not at all.
You're just kind of like, as soon as that break happens, you're explained that person wasn't there, and you understand that influence of Freddy, you understand that, and then like that the cut, and then when that other shit happens, you're like, what the fuck's going on? Was this always in her head? Have they been working with her this whole time? And they wait a really long time to tell you exactly what's happening. I mean, a really long time.
Which also then, like, at the end, she passes Freddy off like an STD or some shit. And it's like, I don't remember that ever being a part of Freddy lore. Like, she's just like, Freddy wants you now. And it's like, he would still totally be after you, though. Like, just because he grabbed another.
Freddy's like, I'm down for both.
Yeah. Yeah, Freddy's like, I'm down. 2 for 1 special.
Also, what were some? I have a note of some of Freddy's terrible jokes in here.
The one at the very end.
Yeah, stick that in your VCR.
I wrote
and suck it.
He also said you should always respect your elders, which I wrote Freddy is not based at all.
You should always respect your elders, said the pedophile.
Yeah. About the grandmother who abused her.
Yeah.
So, all that.
Are we canceling Freddy?
Can I just say, he's been canceled. I'm pretty sure that happened when he molested children.
Yeah.
But hey, whatever. I do think that the scene, I'm going straight to hell for this. This scene where the grandmother comes in and it's supposed to be the serious scene. She's like, I wanted to be a grandmother and spoil my kids, but I was stuck raising you because your parents had to go and fucking die. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I burst out laughing when I heard that because that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in even the most evil motherfuckers on the planet couldn't write something that heinous and try to pass it off like it's a normal or misunderstood thing to say.
So another question about that exact scene.
That was some Lemony Snicket's bullshit, dude. That was some heinous shit.
If the dude is a figment of her imagination,
well, he was her boyfriend.
But they said that he never existed.
No. I know they fucked that up in that scene. What they're saying is he wasn't at that party that night because a few years ago she was on the couch with that guy and her grandmother walked in. He ran out. All that stuff. Okay. That's how she envisioned him later.
Because they say that he never existed, and I was like, wait a second, who the fuck was she making out with? If that person,
just like nobody,
did the grandma just walk in on her?
No, he never existed in the sense that he was not there the whole night, and the person she's referring to has never lived where she's living right now.
I did not get that while watching it.
It's probably like it's probably because it was poorly written.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is I love it. Like, it's so bad and so hard to fucking watch and terrible, but it's such a time capsule.
Have you seen more of the episodes?
I've only ever seen one other episode in a ridiculous instance, and I won't get into it because I want to do more videos on Freddy's Nightmares.
I was just trying to get a feel. Are all the episodes like this?
Yes, they are. They are all terrible.
Oh man!
And that intro, like the bad editing of the intro, and like the dum dum,
But that's very 80s. I forgive that.
And dude, yeah, I'm not kidding. I love that intro. Yeah. I adore it. And I love the idea that like Freddy is essentially like, who's the guy who hosts the Twilight Zone? I always forget his name. He's essentially like the narrator in a way. Yeah. And he's this disgusting, degenerate fucking weirdo. And that part of the concept of the show could have really worked. But instead of it being a fun horror show, it's more of an exploration on how to not write a script for a TV show. And it's wild. And I want to get it. There's also a Friday the 13th anthology show. We'll get into all that stuff eventually. That was fucking bananas. Dude, that was bananas.
We're going to end up having to watch more of these.
Dude, of course. Unless this video, like, everybody's like, please don't. Well, like, if the comments are, even if the video gets bad views, we'll probably still do it. But if, like, the comments are like, please don't do this to yourselves.
But if you want
we'll probably still do it.
Well, it's every time we make anything to do with horror, people are like, oh, yeah, horror stuff. So it's like, I know we're going to have to, like.
But you know what, though? It's not like every horror show's bad.
Tubi, don't get rid of it or else we can't.
Oh, that's true.
Like, please, Tubi, don't do that.
It's not. Here's the thing for you guys out there. At the time of recording this, maybe this has changed. It is not available anywhere except for Tubi. So Tubi, the free streaming service that anybody can download, anybody can use it. It's ad supported.
We just logged on as guests.
Yeah. You don't even have to log in. You can watch it as a guest, unless it's mature rated content. I think they make you sign in sometimes. Maybe they didn't. I don't know, because it was TV.
This was TV 14.
It's TV 14.
Yeah.
But for like an M rated thing or an R rated thing, you have to log in. But Tubi is a completely free product, not sponsored. Just saying, you can watch the show that way. So
if you wanted to sponsor us,
if you want to sponsor us,
if you want,
shout out.
Just desperate for sponsor.
I don't give a fuck, dude. You got your movie related or otherwise or anything at all? Please reach out.
Yeah,
you want to give me and Zane a ridiculous product? We'll do it. We'll fucking do this shit.
Tune Goggles, we're talking to you.
Yeah.
Like, what are some other just
you hear that, Nickel Flicks? I'm talking to you, baby. What's up? Looking right at you. Come on. No. What do you guys rate the episode?
Oh, I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it as much as Invader Zim. I have to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I had way more fun, even though it was just as bad. I had way more fun with it than Invader Zim did, than I did with Invader Zim.
At least with Invader Zim, though, I knew that it was gonna be.
You knew that it was gonna end.
Yeah. Every time I was like, okay, we're reaching an end point. It kept fucking
There are
going.
like 80 endings. I think that also has to do with the syndication. I think that that's on purpose. Man. So they can cut out certain things if they need to for syndication. I really do think that.
I think I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Like right in the middle of the road. Fuck. Oh, okay. I did enjoy it.
That's literally where I'm at.
Okay.
It's at a 5 out of 10 for me because even though it's one of the worst scripts I've ever seen committed to television, it's also one of the most fun time capsule things we've done for the show. So it's a mix of both. I think that it will be a lot better if you're in Minecraft with friends, especially during the Halloween season. That could be a good time. But yeah, like, am I saying that this deserved like a Golden Globe or an Emmy?
No. But was it fun?
Yeah. So for me, it's a 5 out of 10 as well. I think that
if the script was better, it could have been higher.
I wonder if there's a Christmas episode.
Oh, that would be good.
Or Thanksgiving.
Or terrible. Or both. It'll be
an
terrible but good.
Equal amount of all three.
Oh, right, 5. All right,
Zane.
I want to give it like a 2 or a 3, but I'm gonna give it.
If you want.
I'm gonna give it a 4 because it did feel a lot like that classic bad horror movie.
Honestly, it was mature Goosebumps for me. I liked that.
It would have been
like,
better if there was more Freddy.
Like
I actually felt like they were kind of light on his use.
They were.
Probably because Robert Englund's like, really? What the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. But maybe he wasn't. Maybe it was just a matter
also,
of the writing.
Also, at times, it felt like they just inserted him later. Like, he wasn't even
there.
there.
Like,
Filming was happening.
Like, it was meant to be an anthology series, and they're like, whoa, wait, we got the licensing for Freddy?
No,
oh, shit, let's run it.
Not necessarily that. More just like they shot the episode, and they're like, man, there's not a lot of Freddy in this one.
We'll just add a couple clips here and done.
Throw that little girl in there. Yeah. Just get her in there. Who cares?
I'm gonna be
extend the strip scene with Mariska Hargitay.
I think the strip scene is really what makes it feel
very scandalous. By the way,
makes
incredibly
it feel so much like a shitty horror movie. Because that's always one of the things that like a shitty like slasher, like a just generic horror movie is always like. Make the girl undress a little bit.
And not to minimize how incredible Mariska Hargitay is, I just wanted to point out that she's insanely hot.
Yeah.
Good for her.
I will have something to say about that whole strip scene too.
Did you say cool strip scene?
I said
it's
that
a whole strip scene.
Oh, I was like that cool strip scene. Like, fuck. I was like,
I've rewatched it 3 times, and you're like, what?
The dudes are being super pervy.
Super weird.
Besides that, for her aspect, where her grandma was like, oh, you're such a whore, blah, blah, blah. For her to even be having a dream like that, like, maybe she was, like, getting more confident in herself and stuff. Like, oh, like, this isn't bad. Like, I can dream about this, but then it turns horribly wrong.
I think also she liked the guy.
Yeah.
And so she knew that her dreams were being watched.
Yeah, but then that's
I'm not kidding, but I think that's it though, right?
I just can't
even
imagine.
Later when the one head psychiatrist guy's like, we need to stop all this, she's like, I want to keep going.
Yeah, but I know, but
and he looks like a fucking dweeb too.
Yeah, well, also like. That's another point of just like what bad writing it was, because the first time, like, he legitimately just creeps her out. He's like, oh yeah, like, here's all this creepy weird shit and like awful misogynistic things, I think. And it's like, that's so 80s, like that's so white man writing in the 80s to be like, oh, this girl would end up falling for this dude because like everything
there's
that he
no
said.
way.
I just think no woman would actually.
I think it was written in the plot out of necessity.
Yeah.
I think they just needed a reason for her to agree to it. And they're like, we'll make her hot for the guy. It's kind of sad, honestly. It's kind of diminishing of the character they had already developed. Yeah. But hey, whatever. It's from the 80s. And dude, there was a lot of ridiculous shit in this that made me giggle. So shout out. And don't forget, cha-cha-cha, wash your hands. A lesson that we could all learn, to wash your hands. It was so intense, and I wrote that bit, and then instantly after you come to the conclusion, like, oh fuck.
And there's even like that bit where she like raises her hand like after like watching that like get all the dirty boys off of there, and then she like raises her hands and they're all bloody. I was like, oh fuck, like that was legitimately jarring. Like that was really good. And then they fucking shit on it through the rest of the episode.
and everything. I just want to point out that it's a great message. You know, in the times of post-COVID, let's all wash our hands. Thank you. All right, guys, we've talked about Invader Zim, Psych, and Freddy's motherfucking nightmares, and it was a trip. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us for more ridiculous content like this. Let us know if there was any shows that we reviewed that you want us to elaborate on, if there's something that you want us to review the pilot of and do an overall series review of, or maybe there's another Halloween episode you want us to catch up on with next year, because we're going to keep this trend of just forcing it to live. Halloween specials and TV shows need to not go anywhere.
Specials away from me.
I will fucking pick it up by its shirt and wrangle it around. Okay, it's not going anywhere. I love it. I love the idea of taking familiar characters and putting them in creepy situations in a Halloweeny theme. I think it's such a fun concept and needs to not go anywhere. So let's keep it alive with these. Lacey, anything you wanted to add?
No, I don't think so.
All right, kids. Have a spooktacular Halloween, and be sure to check out this channel on the 31st for our 1978 Halloween special. We're not shooting in 1978. That's when they made it.
Oh, why not? We're not going to time travel for that?
I mean...
But then where did I find this old tape from? Like, where did this time capsule come from?
Yeah.
See you guys there.
Peace out, kids.
Okay, bye-bye.